The ambulance siren was still echoing in my ears when I arrived at the locker room. 17 hours. That's how long I'd been at Mount Sinai Hospital, and my body was screaming for rest. At 31 years old, I had scars that told stories I preferred to forget. The most recent one, emotional, was only 2 years old. Sofia Castellano. 58 years old. Mitral valve repair. Her name was etched in my mind like an invisible tattoo. The surgery that should have been routine, that I'd done dozens of times before, ended with a monitor emitting that sharp, relentless sound. Sudden cardiac arrest, no prior warning. 40 minutes of desperate effort. 40 minutes that weren't enough. The review board cleared me. Unforeseeable complication, they said. Acute myocardial infarction secondary to undiagnosed coronary artery disease. There was nothing I could have done differently. But that didn't erase the weight I carried. I left the hospital that Tuesday with rain beginning to fall. November in New York was unforgiving. The wind cut across my face. The humidity penetrated my bones. My apartment in Brooklyn was 40 minutes by subway. But that night, I decided to walk part of the way. I needed the cold air to clear my head. It was on the way home that exhaustion finally defeated me. Not physical exhaustion, but that emotional kind that accumulates silently until it overflows. I stopped on a dark corner, leaned against a wall of cold bricks, and simply fell apart. The tears came without permission. 2 years holding that in. 2 years pretending I was fine, that I'd moved on. 47 lives saved since Sofia. 47 hearts that kept beating because of my hands. But none of them erased the one I lost. When I finally managed to pull myself together, it was almost 1 a.m. I got home soaked, shivering. My apartment was small, barely furnished, but it was mine. I'd lived alone since my parents died in a car accident when I was 20. My younger brother, Daniel, had his own place near Columbia, where he was finishing his master's in economics. I took a hot shower, put on an old sweatshirt, sat on the couch with my laptop. My fingers typed the same words they'd typed every week for 2 years. Sofia Castellano, obituary. The page loaded. I read every word again, even though I'd already memorized it all. Sofia Teresa Castellano, 58 years old, passed away unexpectedly. Devoted mother of Dominic, beloved friend to many, known for her generous spirit. Services were held at St. Anthony's Church, burial at Greenwood Cemetery. I had gone to the funeral. I stood at the back of the church where no one would recognize me. I saw her son, a man of maybe 35 years old, dark hair and shoulders rigid as steel, standing in the first pew without shedding a tear. Just that unyielding posture while people offered condolences he clearly didn't want. I left before the burial. I couldn't bring myself to watch. But that night, looking at the Greenwood Cemetery address at the bottom of the obituary, something changed inside me. A decision formed slowly. I could go now, before my shift started at 9. I could see where she was buried. Maybe say the apology I should have said 2 years ago. I didn't allow myself to think too much. Thinking too much led to paralysis. I got dressed quickly, grabbed my bag, left the apartment at 4 a.m. New York was quiet at that hour. A different kind of city. Streetlights reflected on the wet asphalt. A few taxis passed by. The world seemed suspended between night and dawn. I stopped at a 24-hour store. I bought the first flowers I saw. White lilies. They seemed appropriate, respectful. The kind of flowers you bring to someone's grave when you're the reason there's a grave. The trip to Greenwood Cemetery took 40 minutes. I watched the city give way to more wooded areas. November had stripped most of the trees bare. They rose like skeletons against the gray sky that promised more rain. The cemetery gates were open when I arrived. No one else was there. Just row after row of headstones, stretching under a sky that was beginning to lighten. I drove slowly through the grounds, looking for the section listed in the obituary. I found it near a cluster of old oak trees. I parked and got out, holding the lilies as if they might disappear. The headstone was black granite with gold lettering, simple, elegant. Sofia Teresa Castellano, beloved mother. The birth and death dates. Nothing about how she died. Nothing about the surgeon who failed. I knelt on the grass. It was damp and cold, soaking my jeans immediately. The pain in my scraped knees from days ago returned, but I ignored it. "I'm sorry," I whispered. My voice broke. "I'm sorry I couldn't save her." The words hung in the air, inadequate, pathetic, but they were all I had. I pulled dead leaves from the base of the headstone, arranged the lilies carefully in the bronze vase embedded in the stone, traced the letters of her name with my fingertips. I don't know if you can hear me, I continued. I don't know if it matters, but I think about you every day. I've saved so many people since you died, 52. But none of them erase what happened. None of them bring you back. I stayed there until the sun began to rise, until my knees were numb and my hands frozen. When I finally stood up, something had loosened in my chest. Not forgiveness, not peace, but something close to it. The slightest release, like a knot tied tight for 2 years, finally loosening enough to let me breathe. I promised her I'd come back, that I'd keep her grave clean, bring fresh flowers, make sure someone remembered her. I drove back to the hospital and started another shift. I saved 2 lives that day. I slept 5 hours without dreaming about heart monitors. After that first visit, I couldn't stay away. I came back the following Wednesday at 6 in the morning. I brought fresh lilies, cleaned the headstone with the sleeve of my jacket. I stayed 20 minutes. By the 3rd week, it had become something I needed, a ritual that grounded me. Every Wednesday at dawn, I'd wake before my alarm, grab coffee from the machine in my building, drive. The 40-minute trip became meditation. I varied the flowers: white lilies, pink roses, yellow carnations. Once purple irises because they reminded me of my mother's garden when I was a child. The change was subtle, but my friend Rachel Foster noticed first. We were orthopedic surgeons together at Mount Sinai. We'd grab coffee between shifts. "Okay, what's going on with you?" Rachel set down her mug. "You look different, less tense. You're actually sleeping." I wanted to tell her. Almost told her. But how do you explain that you're visiting the grave of a patient you lost 2 years ago? It sounded obsessive. Maybe it was obsessive. "Just working through some things," I said vaguely. Rachel raised an eyebrow but didn't push. On the 4th week, I brought white roses. November was getting colder. I wore a heavier coat now. The cemetery was beautiful in late autumn, even with the bare trees. I went through my routine, removed old flowers, placed new ones, cleaned the headstone, settled onto the grass. "It's getting close to the anniversary," I told Sophia. 2 years since you died, since I failed you." That's when I noticed the SUV, black, expensive looking, parked about 50 yards away. I hadn't noticed it when I arrived. It must have come while I was lost in conversation. I didn't think much of it. Other people visited loved ones here. But the following week, it poured rain. I drove anyway, unable to break the routine. The cemetery was deserted. Any sane person was home in bed. I knelt in the mud, not caring anymore about staying dry. I was already soaked. "Sorry about the pink roses," I said, raising my voice over the sound of the rain. They didn't have lilies. I stayed there. Rain falling, letting myself feel everything I'd been holding in. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Long enough for my knees to go numb. Then I heard footsteps approaching through the mud. A shadow fell over me. I looked up slowly. A man was standing beside me. Tall, dark hair slicked back by the rain, wearing an expensive black suit that still looked impeccable despite the storm. He was holding a large umbrella, but he wasn't offering to share, just looking down at me with eyes so dark they were almost black, intense in a way that made my heart stumble. I froze. My hand was still on Sophia's headstone. "How did you know her?" His voice was calm, controlled, but there was something underneath, something sharp. I should have stood up, should have said something, but my brain had short-circuited because I recognized him. The man from the funeral, her son. My voice came out as a whisper. I cleared my throat, tried again. I was her doctor. His expression didn't change. He just kept looking at me with those dark, unreadable eyes. Her doctor. Yes. I finally forced myself to stand. My legs were shaking from cold or fear, or both. I was her doctor, before she. I couldn't finish the sentence. He studied me for a long moment. The rain kept falling around us. "You come here often," he said. Not a question. A statement. How do you know that? First time in the rain, though. Something flashed in his eyes, too fast to identify. "You should get out of the storm. You'll get sick." Then he turned and walked away, just like that. Didn't introduce himself. Didn't ask my name. Didn't demand to know why I was visiting his mother's grave every week. I stood there frozen, watching him disappear into the rain, watching him get into that black SUV, watching him drive away without looking back. My heart was racing. He knew I came often, which meant he'd seen me before. Was he watching me? Following me? I stumbled back to my car, soaked, started the engine with trembling fingers. I couldn't stop shaking. He knew. He knew I was the surgeon who failed to save his mother, and now he was here. I drove home shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the lock. I stripped off my wet clothes, stood under a scalding shower, put on dry clothes. I called the hospital saying I had a migraine. I spent the rest of the day on the couch, unable to stop replaying that encounter in my head. The next morning I woke to my phone buzzing. A text from Rachel. "You okay? HR said you called in sick. That's not like you." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "I'm fine. Just needed a day. I'll be there tomorrow." She replied immediately. "Want me to bring you soup? I'm off at 6. "I'm fine, thanks." I wasn't fine, but I didn't know how to explain what was wrong. I didn't go back to the cemetery the following Wednesday. I told myself it was because I had back-to-back surgeries scheduled. I told myself I needed a break from the routine, but the truth was simpler. I was scared. Scared of running into him again. Scared of those dark eyes that seemed to see right through me. Scared of what he might know. Rachel noticed my distraction during a procedure Thursday afternoon. I was assisting her on a complex knee reconstruction, my normally steady hands fumbling with the retractors. "You okay there?" she asked, glancing at me over her surgical mask. "I'm fine, just tired." "You sure? Because you've been distracted all week." I couldn't tell her, couldn't explain. The following Thursday night, everything changed. I was finishing paperwork in the doctor's lounge when my pager went off. Trauma Unit 3, gunshot wound, all hands needed. I ran. It's what you do when trauma calls. You don't walk, you don't think, you just run. The emergency department was chaos. Paramedics bringing in a gurney at full speed. Blood everywhere. Nurses shouting. The attending physician barking orders. Male, approximately 28 years old. Single GSW to the abdomen. Entry wound right lower quadrant. No exit wound. BP dropping. Heart rate 135 and climbing. I moved to the patient's side. His face was pale, lips tinged blue, shock setting in. We needed to move fast. "Get him to surgery. Now. Call anesthesia. I need 4 units of O negative on standby." The surgical team mobilized with practiced efficiency. Minutes later, we had him prepped and anesthetized. I made the incision, found the bullet lodged near the liver, carefully extracted it, repaired the damage, sutured bleeding vessels. I worked for 3 hours until his vitals stabilized. He would live. Barely, but he would live. It wasn't until we moved him to the ICU that I looked at his chart. Marcus D'Angelo, 28 years old, no relatives listed, and a police officer stationed outside the room asking questions about affiliations. My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant, but I'd done my job. I'd saved his life. That's what I do. I don't judge. I don't ask questions. I just operate. 3 days later, Marcus was stable enough to be moved to a regular room. I checked on him during rounds, keeping my visits brief and professional. That afternoon, I finished my last surgery around 4. Exhausted, hungry, wanting nothing more than to go home and sleep. I walked to the parking lot, keys already in my hand. That's when I saw it. The black SUV parked right next to my Civic, the same one from the cemetery. My heart stopped, then started beating double time. I slowed my pace, debating whether I should go back and call security. Then the driver's door opened. He got out. Same expensive suit, same dark eyes, same presence that made the air feel heavier. "Dr. Bennett," he said. Not a question. He knew my name. I froze 2 meters from my car. "How do you know who I am?" "I make it a point to know things." He closed the distance between us in 2 strides. Not threatening, just direct. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About Marcus, my second in command. The man you operated on 3 days ago. Of course. Of course Marcus was connected to him. Because my life had apparently decided to become a series of increasingly uncomfortable coincidences. Your second is recovering well. Should make a full recovery." "I know. I've been getting updates from the nursing staff. He studied my face with that same intensity from the cemetery. You saved his life. It's my job. Not all doctors would work that hard on someone like Marcus. Someone the police were waiting to arrest the moment he woke up. I treat all my patients the same. Dominic Castellano, he said suddenly. The name hit me like a physical blow. Sophia's son. I knew, of course. But hearing him say it out loud made it real. I see you remember, he said calmly. Your mother. I was there when I couldn't finish. I know. I investigated after seeing you at her grave, found the surgical records, read the review board's findings, understood what happened. My throat closed. He knew. He knew I was the surgeon who failed to save his mother, and now he was here talking about how I saved his second in command. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm sorry about your mother. Why do you go there every Wednesday morning? Why do you visit her grave? Because I failed her. Because I think about her every day. Because I need to apologize even though she can't hear me. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Then unexpectedly he said, She didn't suffer. What? When she died, it was quick. She didn't suffer. His jaw tightened. I was in Dubai when it happened. Business that couldn't be postponed. When I got back, she was already gone. I never got to say goodbye. Never got to thank her for everything she did for me. I've carried that guilt for 2 years. It's not the same as, isn't it? You blame yourself for not saving her. I blame myself for not being there. We both carry something we can't fix. He pulled something from his jacket pocket. A business card. Black with gold lettering. Just a phone number. If you need anything, Dr. Bennett, anything at all, call me. Why would I need to call you? Because you saved Marcus's life when you didn't have to. Because you visit my mother's grave every week and bring flowers. People who do those things deserve to have someone looking out for them. He pressed the card into my hand. Thank you for trying to save her. For not giving up. Then he turned, got into the SUV, drove away. Left me standing there holding a card and trying to process what just happened. He had thanked me. The son of the woman I failed had just thanked me. I got into my car, hands shaking, sat there for a long time. The card felt heavy in my palm. I should throw it away. Should want nothing to do with Dominic Castellano or his family or whatever world they operated in. But I didn't throw it away. I put it in my wallet, told myself it would be rude to discard it immediately. 2 days later, I went back to the cemetery. I brought white roses, knelt in front of Sophia's grave. Your son came to see me, I told her. Dominic. He's not what I expected. He thanked me. Even though I couldn't save you, he thanked me. The wind whispered through the trees. A bird called somewhere in the distance. I don't know what to do with that, but I wanted you to know that your son is a good man. Despite everything else, he's good. I stayed for 20 minutes, then drove to the hospital and started another day. I saved 3 lives. Didn't lose any. The card stayed in my wallet. I didn't call, but I also didn't throw it away. Dominic called me 2 days later. I was reviewing post-op reports when my cell phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Dr. Bennett, it's Dominic Castellano. My heart was already racing. Mr. Castellano. I was calling to see if you'd be free for dinner tonight. I should have said no. Should have made up an excuse about being on call or too busy. But instead, I heard myself say, Where? There's a restaurant in Tribeca, Luciano's. You know it? I can find it. 7 o'clock. I'll have a table reserved under my name. He hung up before I could change my mind. I stood there staring at my phone, wondering what I'd agreed to. Rachel cornered me in the doctor's lounge 20 minutes later. Okay, you've been weird all week and now you're smiling at your phone. What's going on? Nothing. Just a dinner. A dinner. She raised both eyebrows. With who? Someone I met recently. Isabella Bennett has a date. Alert the media. She grinned. Good for you. When was the last time you had a real date? 2 years. It's not a date, just dinner. Right. Just dinner with someone who makes you smile at your phone. She grabbed her coffee. Wear something nice and text me when you get home so I know you're alive. I didn't tell her who the dinner was with. Didn't tell her anything else. Just finished my shift, went home, stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes trying to decide what to wear. Eventually, I settled on black pants and a cream blouse. Simple, professional, not trying too hard. I left my hair down, put on minimal makeup, grabbed my jacket and keys. Luciano's was tucked away on a quiet side street in Tribeca. Small, elegant, the kind of place that didn't need to advertise. The host greeted me at the door. "Dr. Bennett, Mr. Castellano is waiting for you." He led me through the main dining room to a private area in the back, quieter, more intimate. Dominic stood when he saw me, buttoning his jacket in a gesture that seemed automatic. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me." I sat in the chair he pulled out, feeling awkward, out of place. "This is a beautiful restaurant. My family owns it. Well, my aunt runs it, but the recipes are my mother's." For the first time, I saw something beyond intensity in his eyes, softness, pain. She used to cook here on weekends, said it kept her connected to her roots. A waiter appeared with wine, poured 2 glasses without asking, then disappeared. Dominic raised his glass slightly. "To my mother, and to the doctor who tried to save her." I didn't know what to say, so I just raised my glass and took a sip. "Tell me about her," I said quietly. "Your mother, not as a patient, as a person." Dominic leaned back in his chair, glass in hand. "She was stubborn, refused to slow down even when her health started declining. Said she had too much to do, too many people who needed her." He smiled slightly. "She volunteered at the church, organized food drives for shelters, made sure every kid in the neighborhood had Christmas presents. She sounds wonderful. She was the best person I knew, the only one who could make me feel human despite." He paused, seemed to reconsider his words. "Despite the life I lead." "What life is that exactly?" "One you probably shouldn't be part of, Dr. Bennett." "Isabella. If we're having dinner, you can call me Isabella." "Isabella." He tested my name, the syllables careful on his tongue. "My family is complicated. Always has been for generations. The legitimate businesses are real. The restaurant, the properties. But there are other ventures. You're talking about mercenaries. I'm talking about power, contracts, obligations I can't walk away from even if I wanted to." His dark eyes met mine. "That's why I shouldn't have invited you. That's why you should probably finish your wine and leave. But you did invite me, and I came. So maybe tell me why." He was quiet for a long moment. The waiter returned with food I didn't remember ordering. Pasta with fresh herbs, bread that smelled divine. "My mother talked about you," Dominic finally said. "Not by name, but she mentioned the young surgeon assigned to her case. Said you had kind eyes, that you explained everything carefully, made her feel safe." My throat tightened. I wish I could have saved her. "So do I. But that's not why you're here." He set his fork aside. "You go to her grave every week, bring flowers, clean the headstone. You saved Marcus when you could have let him die on that operating table and no one would have questioned it. You don't judge. You don't demand anything. You just care. Is that so unusual?" "In my world, yes." He picked up his glass again. "I haven't connected with anyone since she died. Didn't want to. But then I saw you kneeling in the rain talking to her grave, and something changed. Dominic, I don't know what you're expecting from this dinner, but I'm not expecting anything. I just wanted to share a meal with someone who understands what it's like to carry guilt you can't let go." His phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, frowned, silenced it. "Tell me about your life, Isabella. Outside the hospital." So I did. About losing my parents at 20, about raising Daniel while finishing medical school, about the long hours and exhaustion, and how my entire identity had become intertwined with saving people. We talked through dinner, then dessert, then coffee. The conversation flowed more easily than it should have. He asked questions that showed he was really listening, shared stories that revealed unexpected layers of humanity. When I finally looked at my watch, it was almost 10 at night. "I need to go. I have surgery at 6 in the morning." Dominic signaled for the waiter, who appeared instantly with my coat. Outside, his driver was waiting with the SUV. "I can take you home." "I have my car." "Then let my driver follow you. New York isn't safe at this hour." I should have refused, but something in the way he said it, in the genuine concern in his eyes, made me agree. The drive to Brooklyn was quiet. I was conscious of the SUV's headlights in my rearview mirror the whole time. When I parked in front of my building, Dominic got out and walked me to the door. "Thank you for dinner," I said. It was. Unexpected. Can I see you again? My heart was racing. Dominic, you said I shouldn't be part of your life. I said a lot of things tonight. Some of them were warnings. But I also told the truth when I said I haven't connected with anyone in 2 years. He touched my face lightly, a gesture so gentle my chest ached. You make me want to try again. This is a terrible idea. Probably. He smiled for the first time that night. It transformed his entire face. But something tells me you make terrible decisions sometimes too. Like going to cemeteries at 4 a.m. I laughed despite myself. Only on Wednesdays. Then I'll see you Wednesday morning, at the grave. Before I could respond, he kissed my forehead, walked back to the SUV, and drove away. I went into the apartment trembling, but not from cold. Rachel had sent me 3 texts asking how it went. I replied with a simple, "Complicated. I'll tell you tomorrow." I couldn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every word of the conversation, every look, every moment that seemed to carry more weight than it should. Wednesday morning, I woke before my alarm. I grabbed coffee, picked up white lilies from the same 24-hour store, drove to Greenwood. The SUV was already there when I arrived. Dominic was standing beside Sophia's grave, hands in his pockets, looking at the headstone. I approached slowly, suddenly nervous. "Good morning," he said quietly. He turned. "Good morning, Isabella." I knelt, started my routine. Removed old flowers, placed new ones, cleaned the headstone. Dominic watched in silence. "She would have liked you," he finally said. "My mother, she would have approved." "Approved of what?" "Whatever is starting between us." I looked at him over my shoulder. "And what is starting exactly?" "I don't know yet, but I want to find out." He knelt beside me. "If you'll let me." We stayed there together as the sun rose, painting the sky pink and gold. For the first time in 2 years, the weight in my chest felt a little lighter. The following weeks unfolded in a strange and unexpected pattern. Every Wednesday morning, we met at the cemetery. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we stayed in comfortable silence. He started bringing flowers too. Always red roses, Sophia's favorites. Rachel finally cornered me 2 weeks later, during a coffee break. "Okay, you need to tell me what's going on. You're glowing, literally glowing. Who is he?" "It's complicated." "Complicated like he's married? Or complicated like he lives in another country?" "Complicated like he's the son of a patient I lost." Rachel almost spit out her coffee. "What?" I told her everything. The cemetery, Marcus, the dinner, the Wednesday mornings. She listened without interrupting, which was rare for Rachel. "Isabella, this is..." "Wow, that's a lot." "I know. But you're happy. For the first time since I've known you, you look genuinely happy." She was right. I was happy. Frighteningly happy. Dominic started showing up at the hospital, never intrusively, just texts asking if I'd taken a break, if I'd eaten anything. Sometimes he'd send food from Luciano's. Other times, just flowers to brighten my office. 1 month became 2. The cemetery meetings turned into dinners. Dinners became walks through the city. He showed me New York through his eyes. Hidden places only locals knew, views that took my breath away. But there were darker moments too. Nights when he'd disappear for days without explanation. He'd come back tense, exhausted, with shadows in his eyes that weren't there before. I never asked. He never told. Until the night everything changed. It was a Friday, almost midnight. I was home, already in pajamas, when my phone rang. "Isabella." His voice was tense. "I need you." "What happened?" "It's Marcus. He was shot again. This time it's bad. Really bad." "Take him to the hospital." "I can't. There are complications. People looking for him. Please, Isabella. You're the only person I trust." I should have said no. Should have insisted on the hospital. But I heard the desperation in his voice. "Where are you?" He gave me an address in Queens. "Come alone. Don't tell anyone." I put on jeans and a sweatshirt, grabbed my medical bag that I always kept at home, drove to the address. It was a warehouse, old, seemingly abandoned. But there was light leaking through covered windows. Dominic's SUV was parked outside. He met me at the door, face pale. "Thank you for coming." Inside, the warehouse had been converted into something between an office and a makeshift operating room. Marcus was on a table, unconscious, blood soaking his shirt. My medical training took over. I need better lights, clean towels, boiled water, and someone to assist me. Dominic gathered everything quickly. I washed my hands, put on gloves, examined Marcus. The bullet went through. Hit the lung but missed the heart by inches. I looked at Dominic. He needs a hospital. He needs blood, x-rays, proper equipment. I can't take him to a hospital. Please, Isabella. Do what you can. I worked for 3 hours. I stopped the bleeding, removed bullet fragments, sutured as best I could with the limited supplies. Marcus woke briefly, groaned in pain, then passed out again. He'll live, I finally said, removing the bloody gloves. But he needs strong antibiotics, and complete rest for at least 2 weeks. I'll arrange everything. Dominic held my hand. Thank you. You saved his life again. Dominic, what's going on? Why can't you take him to the hospital? He led me outside, into the cold night air. There are things about my life I haven't told you. Dangerous things. Marcus was hit because he was protecting me. There are people trying to take over my territory. Violence has been escalating. Are you in danger? I always am. He touched my face. And now you are too, by getting involved with me, by coming tonight. I'm sorry, Isabella. I should have kept my distance from you. But you didn't. No, because I'm selfish. Because you're the only good thing in my life and I can't let you go. He kissed me then. Not gently like before, but with urgency, desperation, fear. I kissed him back, wrapping my arms around his neck, letting myself feel everything I'd tried to deny. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathless. Come home with me, he said. Tonight. Let me keep you safe. I went. Against all good sense, I got into his SUV, let him take me to a penthouse on the Upper East Side that probably cost more than my entire annual salary. Inside was luxurious but surprisingly warm. Pictures of Sophia everywhere, books on shelves, a kitchen that was clearly used. Take a shower, he said. I'll bring clean clothes. I stood under the hot water until my muscles relaxed, until Marcus's blood had washed from my skin. When I came out, there was a robe waiting, and the smell of coffee coming from the kitchen. Dominic was on the couch, still wearing his blood-stained clothes, holding a cup. I sat beside him. You should clean up too. In a minute. He pulled me closer. I just want to stay like this for a moment. We stayed like that until the sun started to rise. Then he finally got up, showered, came back wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt that made him look younger, more vulnerable. Isabella, there's something I need to tell you. My stomach tightened. What? My mother, her death. It wasn't just a surgical complication. The world seemed to tilt. What do you mean? She had undiagnosed heart disease, yes. But there was also something else. Someone tampered with her preoperative medications, caused the cardiac arrest. It was deliberate. I couldn't breathe. Why? Who would do that? Rivals trying to weaken me. She was my only vulnerable point. His voice broke. They killed her to destroy me. And it worked. I spent 2 years hunting down those responsible. I found them. I dealt with them. You killed them. Yes. I should have been scared. Should have run. But all I felt was a deep ache for him, for Sophia, for everything that had been taken. The surgery could never have saved her, I whispered. No matter what I did. No, but you tried. You cared. And you kept caring for 2 years after. He held my face in his hands. That's why I love you, Isabella. Because you have a heart that refuses to give up on people. You love me? Madly, completely. Probably since that rainy day at the cemetery. I kissed him, pouring everything I couldn't say into words. When we pulled apart, we both had tears in our eyes. I love you too, I said. Against all logic and reason, I love you. The following months weren't easy. There were more nights like that one with Marcus. More moments when Dominic's life bled into mine. But there was also joy, dinners with his extended family. Quiet mornings at the cemetery. Nights in his penthouse where we could pretend we were just two normal people in love. Rachel finally met Dominic at a double dinner. Afterward, she pulled me aside. Okay, he's intense, and clearly dangerous. But the way he looks at you, she smiled. Like you're the only person in the world. Don't let him go, Isabella. I don't intend to. On the second anniversary of Sophia's death, we went to the cemetery together. We brought her favorite flowers, red roses and white lilies mixed. She would be happy, Dominic said, arm around my shoulders, seeing us here together. Do you think she would approve? Really? I know she would. Because you make me want to be better. Less violent, more human. He kissed my temple. You're slowly pulling me out of the darkness. What if I can't? What if you're pulled in too deep? Then you'll come get me, like you always do. He was right, I would, because that's what we did for each other. We were anchors in chaos, light in darkness, forgiveness for guilt we should never have carried. It started with tears at a grave and a whispered apology. It ended with love born from shared pain, from understanding that some connections transcend all logic. On the way home that morning, with his hand intertwined in mine, I knew I'd found something rare, something precious, something worth fighting for. Because sometimes, the most unexpected love is the one that heals most, and sometimes, the most broken people are the only ones who truly understand how to fix you. This story of Isabella made me think a lot about guilt, forgiveness, and second chances. You know what's most incredible? That you are here, living each moment of these narratives with me. If you want to continue on this journey of stories that touch the soul, that make you feel, cry, and root for the characters, hit that subscribe button now and turn on the notification bell. We already have the next story ready, and it's even more intense. Leave your like if you loved it and comment more, so I know you want more stories like this. See you in the next video. And remember, your story matters too.